And U.S. public support for a war with Iran is very low. It's extremely low. So Trump is in a very delicate situation, backing Israel with their continuing escalating operations vis-a-vis their neighbors in Iran.
And this is what your film is about.
That's a part of it, yeah. And then also how
Hello, my name is Robert Cibis. I'm very proud and very pleased to be here with James Patrick. He's a filmmaker and an economist, and he is an insider into global politics. He grew up in DC and knew important people, and till today he's thinking about it, meeting people about it. He's known for the series called Planet Lockdown, and met a lot of people we also met at Oval Media. And we should stress this: Planet Lockdown is on our website, www.oval.media. This is also where you can see this discussion. If you just see a chunk of it, everything is always on that website, and we don't know for other platforms that might not be that supportive that they always keep our content. And yes, and today we have I would say a current affairs discussion, but with a broader scope. Because we just talk about the Third World War, which we observe starting around the globe. And we go beyond this because we go into the mindset of the people who, might be the perpetrators, who might be the victims, and to see, maybe how we can cope with this. So as a good doctor, we make a diagnosis first. And the good thing is that James is not just an expert, but he is also making a film about this topic. And he already met a long list of generals who spoke out and said, this kind of politics is against common sense. I should add something which is, really why I'm so confident saying that World War III already started. That is, James researched the topic, of course, of the current tension, but also the COVID crisis with Planet Lockdown, which I just mentioned. And I did the same. And we both said, we have to describe the war which is happening right now. And we both called it World War III. And he will do a feature film. I'm about to produce and co-direct a series which shows the various aspects of this war, which has all facets of life being instrumentalized in this conflict.
No, I'm really grateful you're doing a kind of breakdown on the different topics related to the World War III scenario. So I'm really making just a feature 90-minute film on it and releasing the 20 plus interviews as a part of that, just for people to get a little.
And where can they find it?
It's at World War III documentary.com.
It's here.
World War III documentary, .com. And then, and also bigpicture.watch, there's some links to that. But yeah, so you're doing a deeper dive into the machinations of the different topics. And mine's really a 90-minute film and then releasing all the interviews. So I appreciate, we're like minds doing the same work, and I really appreciate what you're doing, and, happy there's another person in Europe, doing the hard work, and because it's an unforgiving task.
Maybe you can start just telling about these generals, because I think it's amazing, because my cliche is, of course, the opposite. Because generals, they're masters of war, so they think in terms of war. Yeah. And politicians are masters of diplomacy, so they think in terms of negotiations. Mm-hmm. So why would a general say, we need diplomacy, and a politician say, we need a war machine?
No, it's really crazy, isn't it? Yeah. No, well, yeah, I grew up in Washington, and from a high-level family, or prosperous family, and I think it's so I grew up around all these actors, my family was involved with politics or things, but it's like I grew up around these things.
Who did you meet? Give us some names.
Well, I mean, different politicians and intelligence people or family friends, or, you know, you'd see you have some family friend, they're like, oh, you know, I'm not CIA, but then they're like, then they show up in these hotspot countries, and, you know, when there's some coup or something, they're like, oh, this guy's there, but his resume doesn't match what the fuck he was there to be there for that reason. So just over the years, you know, I got an understanding of how these things work, and
this is proof of you being a DC insider, because you just didn't give the names. This is what you do if you are in the intelligence family. You just pay attention. You just pay attention because, you know, sometimes might be wrong. Sometimes it might hurt somebody, or it might you know, come back to you. So. But still, yes, there's a way of saying things.
Well, intelligence people kind of stay in their own realm. They tell each other things, but when you're not in it, they don't like tell you those things. So, but I mean, when you know intelligence people, you kind of, over the years, you know they're doing that because it's suspicious, the stuff they're doing, you know?
I mean, you just mentioned you can see sometimes incoherences or in the CVs.
If someone's like doing things, if their resume doesn't match a normal person's resume, right? If they're like, oh, I was, you know, like a normal person, they get involved with one kind of business, and then they work their way up, and then, you know. But if someone's like jumping around in different industries that don't make any sense, if the resume doesn't make any sense, that the job hiring, you know, the HR people would hire these people to do, then, you know, they're a spook. And if they're like always in hotspot countries, they're showing up in all these places where there's CIA-backed revolutions, you know that this guy's...
Are there any other indicators you can give us as a hint?
Of what?
No, or whether a person has maybe a made-up CV, like...
Well, if the fucking thing doesn't make any sense. If it's
like this black... If it's are there sometimes
logical
holes in this, or do they just write work with the military or so? Does this also happen, or...?
Well, if they had a Marine background, and then if they're in... If their resume doesn't make logical sense, like people wouldn't hire them to do those things.
I see.
So if there's a guy who's an executive at a telecom company, and then he's working in, I don't know, some hydrological dam company, and then another thing, but always in hotspot countries where U.S. is overthrowing the governments, then that's suspicious.
Okay, I see.
You know, then it's like, why the hell is this guy over here and there?
Yeah. And so, I mean, in my introduction, I was referring to World War III. So, and I was saying, like, it's obvious, didn't it start? Would you really say this? I mean, maybe I just said too much, did I?
No, I would argue World War III has already started. I mean, Foreign Minister of Russia, Lavrov, said, I think 2 or 3 months ago that World War III has started. I think the Western European countries are taking a very aggressive position against Russia. I'm not a Russian propagandist or in any way in favor of an advocate of Putin or his government or like a mouthpiece for him. I'm not against him, but I'm not for him. You know, I'm a neutral journalist on the subject. But I think the Russians have been, you know, while the invasion of Ukraine was a bit rash and unwarranted, I do see that it was within the context of 11 years of coups and intervention in Ukraine. I did visit Ukraine, I think in 2016 and 17, or 17 and 18, twice, and did visit the site of the Maidan. And it was, I've always been very interested in these false flag operations, Gladio. You know, when I was in high school, my mom was a New York Times journalist, and when I was in high school, this journalist, Valeska von Rauch, a friend of my mom's, she hired me to look up Gladio terrorists in in the GW and Georgetown University databases. So I'd like gotten an early introduction to that in high school, into this Gladio thing, and later on in college, I kind of read up on the Gladio operations. They were these stay-behind army kind of false flag terrorists. They're basically these in the Nazi period. They set up these units in Western European countries that said if the Soviets invade, we'll have a stay-behind non-official officer paramilitary operations to wage a guerrilla war against the Russians when they invade Western Europe. And then the CIA after the war, when they took over Germany, and they said, okay, I think James Jesus Angleton and other type spy masters are like, let's keep this in place. Let's keep these operations in place. And then later in the mid-50s and really in the 60s, they started to activate them. But quite early on, I mean, I think there was like 5 assassination attempts on Charles de Gaulle in the 50s. And de Gaulle really told NATO to get the fuck out of Paris. I mean, so NATO moved from Paris to Brussels because of assassination attempps of the U.S. against de Gaulle.
Didn't know that.
Yeah,
That's
they had
impressive.
some shooting attempts on some cars and bombings, and he just really had enough of the Americans. And so it's this kind of underhanded use of terrorism and manipulating the public opinion through these sort of theatrical, dramatic events. And these things have continued through to the fall of the Soviet Union, and then afterwards into what they've called Gladio II, or FBI documents call them Gladio II, in the more in terms of Arab terrorism or domestic terrorism or.
And so this also refers to Ukraine.
Yeah, the Ukraine issue, I think. Anyway, so now there's this roll up for really a world war, and I think we need to be cautious that this is a beneficial thing for our society. I mean,
But why do you think we are in World War III?
Well, because World War III, yeah, it's kind of an iconic, kind of funny thing to say, like, oh, we're in World War III, but it's really a serious thing. I mean, now the West is aggressing Russia, antagonizing Russia over the Ukraine, in Ukraine. In 2014, there was this Euromaidan affair, where the West put a lot of pressure on Ukraine to join the EU. They had a more Russian sympathetic kind of president, Yanukovych, and the U.S. basically egged on these right-wing parties to shoot people in the Maidan Square. They shot like I think 5 to 10 in January, February 2015, and then really by March, the U.S. diplomats said, no, we need 100 dead to shift public opinion. And then there was this shooting. It killed about 60, but they kind of ginned up the numbers to say it was 100. But I mean, now this is all resting really on this 2014 Maidan affair. There was an earlier 2004 coup that Soros was promoting, and kind of Soros and CIA were promoting this 2014 incident, and I interviewed Ivan Kachanivsky in Ottawa about this. He wrote this really definitive PhD thesis on the whole Euromaidan affair.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, very expert work. And Patrick Babb, who I just interviewed, he talked about how there's 8 sniper teams. But anyway, it's this kind of Gladio style. You commit an atrocity, you shoot people, you kill people in a common area, and then you galvanize them to be sympathetic, to engage in a coup, in a war, and a shift of political opinion. So the Gladio operations were typically done in the West around elections. So it'd be just before an election. You know, back in the Cold War period, they'd pretend they were leftist groups. You know, before, if they were worried a Communist Party was going to take power, they would do an atrocity just before the election to make sure the leftist party wasn't elected. And they'd hire these kind of like fascist kind of fascist, you know, people that were willing to shoot people, you know. Yeah. So it's very similar in Ukraine. You know, you have this. I mean, really, a lot of the leadership in Ukraine is Jewish and pro-Israeli and stuff like that. But they've kind of funded these Nazi parties, these weird 20 different Nazi parties. There's 3 main ones. Oh, really? Yeah, so it's this kind of weird confluence of interests. But they got all these right-wing parties to basically propagate this killing in the Maidan Square. And that's been used as the rationalization to then overthrow the government and then put in this Western-backed government. And then, so Zelensky, I visited Ukraine like during Zelensky's election, and I watched his his show that he did, Servant of the People. So he was run as the president on a TV show, and then actually installed as the president in reality.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm diverting maybe a bit too much, but do you think that it was decided that he should maybe become president before he started the TV show?
Yeah, it looks like a big theater show. Yeah. And I think it's like that in all of the Western countries. And
so let's go to the main question: why World War III? Isn't it war in just one country? If there's war in Ukraine.
Well, I think there's kind of an eschatological drive towards a world conflict, and this will not benefit any of us.
And why? I mean, on the other hand, yes, I mean, to make a TV series obviously is theater in a way, but it's real war. Would you describe that real war with really people dying?
Yeah, there's real people, there's real factions, there's real divisions on the ground, there's real ethnic partisan, you know, divisions. Ukraine, you know, in the east is very Russian. It was previously Russia before, and then the west, it's you know, was previously in the Habsburg Empire, and they're more Western. But I mean, these conflicts get ginned up and aggravated through the funding of these militant parties, but it looks like the Ukraine conflict is being used to create a broader conflict between Western Europe and Russia. And this will not benefit Western Europe nor Russia. Everyone's going to lose. The common person is going to lose. It really reminds me of the Göring statement at the Nuremberg trials, where he's at, you know, Göring, you know, before they executed him or he put the cyanide thing. He says, like, look, you know, the common man in any country doesn't want war, you know? Yes. But they can be easily, you know, driven to war by telling them, well, look, you're attacked, and then here's the enemy, and then, you know, you got to go to war. But it's like everyone gets screwed. I mean, everyone loses. No one wins in war, except for a few oligarchs that make the money in the arms and banking. But this is really a scam, and we shouldn't fall for this again. I mean, we had these catastrophic wars in World War I and World War II. They destroyed the mainland powers of Europe. They reshaped the political landscape. They brought in like untold tragedy and suffering and death. And you know, particularly Germany and Russia and Ukraine lost tremendously over that war. So I think the Ukrainians and the Germans and the Russians are all in a common place here.
So why is it happening again?
Well, why? I mean,
yeah,
because somebody wants to kill a lot of people. I think that's why.
All right. So you see this war in Ukraine as part of a bigger plan to kill many people?
Basically, yeah.
Do you have any proof for it? It sounds, for me, in a way.
It's like, you know, in politics, you look at what's the result, what happens on the ground as a result of the policy. You know, because these idiots in government, they'll tell you all kinds of stupid stories. oh, we did this for this reason or that reason. We're here to help you. They don't give a shit about you. I mean, they're really, what's the result on the ground is what was the purpose of the policy. That's generally what you can do, is say, look, what were the results of the policy? And that was the agenda. That's why it was done. Not the rationalizations they told you why it was done, you know?
So, if I understand you correctly, the theater in Ukraine, which is a real war, but, you know, and a lot of stories are told around this real war, is in fact a kind of, how would I say, way to deviate the attention from the aim of murdering.
Well, I think it's probably two things. It's probably that the result is they're killing a lot of Ukrainians. So all these people that put these Ukrainian flags in front of their house, they're supporting the West giving arms to Ukraine, right?
Yes.
To propagate a war against Russia.
Yes.
But let's be clear. I mean, Ukraine is a infinitely smaller country than Russia. It would never win a war against Russia. Yeah. Militarily, logistically, it's impossible. So to support a war against, given the context of the background that through Western intervention over the last 11, 12 years and more, really, that overthrowing the government of Ukraine, promoting a hostile government in Ukraine that is right on the underbelly. I mean, it's like if Russia, overthrew the government of Mexico and was like, we're going to put a bunch of missiles right on the border of Mexico to shoot at America, and then you're like, okay, well, we're just cool with that. We're not going to, but I mean, U.S. would intervene to stop that, So the lead up, I think that the policy going on in Ukraine now is supporting this war. It's an unwinnable war. They basically lost the thing. I was shocked the whole thing would even go more than a few months, and friends of mine there.
So what does it mean if you have this flag in the window?
That you're really supporting the ongoing conflict in Ukraine that's killing Ukrainians and it's hurting the Ukrainian people. So you're not helping Ukrainians by showing support for the German government or the American government or the French government sending arms to Ukraine to win an unwinnable war, to support a corrupt government that doesn't have the best interests of the Ukrainian people at heart. And that's sick. It's sick. It's sick to kill all these people. It's sick the country used to have 50 million people. Now it's like probably less than 15 million people now in Ukraine. The place is cleared out,
And what did the generals you met tell about this?
Yeah, so now I'm here in Germany interviewing 3 top generals from retired generals in Germany who are speaking from their experience and their common sense to say that this doesn't make sense and this is not in German interests or Western European interests. And they've really said that this is a suicide mission, that we should not get into a war with Russia. I think there's serious, the media now is just saying that a war against Russia is the best thing we could ever do. That it's inevitable that they're going to attack us. But really, politically, in the last 3 years, not one Western European government has made one effort, one letter, phone call, anything to Russia to have any diplomatic solution to this conflict. And in for this interview, and I've grown up around ambassadors, and I mean, it's better to talk through your problems than to fight, right? We all know that in our personal relationships, right? Like you can stay angry and fight all you want, but the shit still has to be dealt with. You still have to talk it over tomorrow or the next day, or whatever. So the same thing goes with diplomacy, and there's zero diplomacy between Western Europe and Russia, and that's crazy, Russia is a massive country. It goes from all the border, basically. I mean, Belarus is an allied country, but all the way to China. I mean, it goes to the border, the coast of Japan, near Japan. So this is the largest country on earth, and it's the natural trading partner of Germany. I mean, Germany was buying its gas from Russia, and this is the whole basis of the German economy was based on the gas from Russia. So making war with Russia, antagonizing positions with Russia, is against German interests. It's against European interests, and now the European Union countries are shooting themselves in the foot. They're going into this green policies, eco policies, not wanting to buy German gas, and it's going. We're seeing higher and higher prices. People are getting poorer and poorer. The standard of living is dropping. I mean, governments in the West are not, and I think more broadly around the world, but are not forwarding their national interests and the interests of their people.
A lot of people here think that the big winner in this are the United States. So how is it for people in the United States?
I think it's true that the United States government is the main machine or actor forwarding the problems in the world. I would agree with you on that.
I didn't say it.
No, I know, but I would say that. And then, but our government is held captive of the same global interests of oligarchs and elites that don't have our interests at heart. They're looking out for their own interests. So we're really in a strange position now where the American government isn't helping the American people. The German government isn't helping the German people. The Italian government isn't forwarding the Italian people's interests. So we're really seeing a breakdown in the concept of government, the concept of belief and faith in the government. And my concern is that I think it will collapse, that we're headed towards a breakdown in belief in the state, in the belief in the, because they're totally destroying our faith in what they're doing. So it will eventually collapse. So I think we need to be prudent and vigilant, because when that happens, these assholes may have an even worse proposition for the next form of government. You see what I'm saying?
So the scenario fathom is that we are heading towards...
And the war is a great way to precipitate that kind of situation.
A population which is angry against their own governments, afraid of other governments, and the atmosphere of tension and the overthrow which might, or the collapse rather, which might be following to this, is in fact part of a plan, because the new system might be established.
I think that's clear, yeah, that there's a constant pressure being put on the political environment, the geopolitical environment, and to bring us into a cataclysmic war, and then a prolonged war, like World War I, World War II, 4 to 5 year war, and that at the end of that devastating conflict, there'll be proposals to create some other geopolitical order, and that will especially not be in our interest. So that we need to be critical of what we're being sold now, and really say this is absurd. Because look, what does Germany or America benefit? Well, really Germany, let's say talk about Russia. You guys should be buying your gas from Russia. You don't have to agree with that they're great guys or agree with Putin's awesome guy. Like, what does it matter? But you're buying the damn gas. The whole industrial framework of Germany is based on the price of that gas. The cost to buy it elsewhere is 3 times the cost. You guys are going to get even more poor over that. That's ridiculous. So, yeah, you don't have to like a government to have an agreement with them. You know, like I don't have to be your friend for us to do a deal. You know, or us to have a you know. So let's be realistic diplomatically in the world, right?
And I still am not completely satisfied about the World War narrative. So why is it a world war?